Fans.
We are here for episode 1 of KCEN Kickoff. This show is just going to be kind of an all-around sports show, and I know the gimmick with kickoff is like, oh, it's football, and obviously we're going to talk football on this show, but it's really going to be in the sense of kicking off your weekend and kicking off your sports weekend specifically with everything that's going on in the world of sports. So this is not just limited to football. We're going to talk baseball. We're going to talk whatever's going on, college basketball, NBA, Winter Olympics even coming up. So we're going to talk all those types of things. And I know I'd mentioned baseball, but let's kind of just get right into it because I love baseball and we're going to talk baseball. Can the Texas Rangers actually make a playoff push? I know in our viewing area we're a bit divided, I'll say, kind of like the entire state of Texas. If you're an Astros fan or a Rangers fan, and frankly, the Rangers are just more exciting to talk about right now. The Astros have been good once again, as they have since 2017, since they've been relevant. They continue to be relevant, and they'll probably win the AL West again this year because if you watch Major League Baseball, the Mariners always seem to fall off around this time of the year. But can the Rangers make a playoff push in the AL West? I think not in the AL West. Can they make a wild card? They have to be really good. At the time of this recording, they are one game under 500. They're 66 and 67, and they just lost to the Angels last night, shut out by the Angels actually, who have given them problems all year, and good teams too. I mean, this Angels team swept the Dodgers 6-0 this season, so they're pesky for sure. The Rangers have a very favorable schedule as we head into this next 9 games. They play the Angels, and then I believe, let me check this out, I think they play the Athletics after. I could be wrong. Yeah. It's the Angels and then the Athletics and then the Diamondbacks. So that's 9 games. I think if they want a shot to get back into this, they got to win at least 7 of these next 9 games. And they already dropped 1 to the Angels. So they're off to a bad start. You know, they swept the Guardians, got back to 500, and, a loss to the Angels. So I guess saying that, you got to win like 7 of the next 8. You know, time is dwindling, and this team has played 500 baseball all season. And the bats have been really streaky. I mean, the beginning of the season was just awful. Brett Boone comes in, hitting coach, and they've been okay, but guys are just being so streaky right now. Like Adolis Garcia cannot get on base to save his life. Yes, he's a great defender. Yes, he's all the big moments, everything like that. But this pitching staff goes in and it gives you quality starts night in and night out. We saw last weekend the starting pitchers gave up 1 run the entire series to the Guardians. Jacob deGrom last night, 2 runs. It's not anything perfect. 2-3 runs. I think he gave up 2, 3. Either way, a quality start for Jacob deGrom, as it usually is when he goes out and pitches every 5 days. But this lineup can't hit, and I think that they're fading out of the postseason picture. But again, it's not over until it's over, and these next 9 games are going to be super influential. And kind of just piggybacking off that wild card race, there always seems to be a Major League Baseball team from the wild card once the postseason starts that's hot and manages to sneak their way in, and they go on a run. We saw it with the Diamondbacks. We saw it with the Rangers a few years ago. The Nationals too when they won the World Series. The wild card in baseball is good for hot and streaky teams, and just looking at the current playoff picture right now, what teams will those be this year? I think in the AL, it's really hard to not say the Royals. Yes, I know the Mariners are there right now, but they're kind of in the division picture. Like they're kind of right there with the Astros. But the Royals, man, they've been playing super well. They made a couple like under the radar moves at the trade deadline. They got Mike Yastrzemski from the Giants, who's been great for them. The Royals definitely are kind of, they feel like that special team to me that can kind of just that everyone really expected to be good this season, but they haven't really performed until now, and they're winning a ton of games, and they're probably going to end up in the postseason. I think the Guardians are in the similar boat as the Rangers. They're kind of just flailing. They're just a 500 baseball team. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the Royals seem like the team from the AL that are going to be that wild card team that nobody wants to play come October. And switching over to the National League, I feel weird saying the Padres because they're right there with the Dodgers, kind of like the Mariners are with the Astros in their division. But it's got to be someone. And the National League is just a lot better than the AL this year. And so the Padres, when looking at everything that they have and they're right there and compete with the Dodgers, if they can be a wild card team, it's going to be similar to how it was a couple years ago, where that Dodgers-Padres series was just must-see TV. Look, I hope the Padres, for their sake, can come out on the winning end of that. They deserve it. Their fans deserve it. So I would say my pick right now is the Padres. The Mets are flailing really bad. Everyone's kind of seen their record as of late. And looking at that wild card race, there's not really anyone else. Like, the Reds are fun. The Reds are interesting. I just don't think they're there yet. They have great pitching, but I will never count out a Terry Francona-led team. It feels a lot like the Rangers. I keep bringing up the Rangers, but Bruce Bochy, when he came in and turned the franchise around in one season and got the Rangers their first World Series title. So don't count out the Reds either, but the Padres are kind of the no-brainer there. But as we head towards October, baseball's getting really fun. And as a self-proclaimed Ranger fan myself, I'll get my biases out there. I hope the Rangers can make a playoff push, make it interesting. But right now it looks like the AL West playoff representation is going to be the Astros and probably the Mariners too. And I tip my cap to the Mariners for the season that they've had. They have a great rotation, and Cal Raleigh just hit his 50th home run. So they finally have the bats to go along with their pitching. It's just they need to continue to be consistent as they head into October. But that's kind of all I got for baseball. So after this short little break, we're going to go and head into the football realm, and we're going to talk about football for the rest of the show. We're going to get into college football, and then we're going to talk NFL. So we'll be right back. Okay, everyone's favorite sport starts this week, college football. Let's get right into it. Just going to do some early preseason winners for the Power Four conferences. And I don't think that there's much controversy here. I mean, let's just start in the SEC, Texas. It's hard to not pick them considering the season that they had last year. And it really just felt like their team was held back by what Quinn Ewers couldn't do. And that's no disrespect to Quinn Ewers. He's in the NFL right now on the Dolphins. He's a fine quarterback, but he couldn't move around like Arch Manning. And I felt like when you were watching Texas in important games, especially the college football playoff, it's like, what? I feel like this team could be better with Arch Manning, or at least have a higher ceiling because of what Arch Manning can do. And we're going to see that this season. And Texas is ranked number one for a reason. So it's kind of hard to go against them in this. So that's kind of all I have for the SEC. But that's how the SEC is. It could be anyone's league on any given week. So we'll just have to see how it shakes out. But kind of going into the Big 12 now, I'm going to stay in Texas, and I'm going to say Texas Tech actually wins this conference. Everyone has seen the amount of NIL money that they've gotten and the recruiting class that they've had and the transfer portal class that they've had. And, well, we're going to see if it works out. Joey McGuire has kind of built this thing up year by year, and it's now time for them to make the jump. But this is the Big 12. Last year, Arizona State was ranked in the preseason poll dead last, and then they ended up winning the conference. So that just goes to show you how much even the coaches in this conference know about how wild this conference can be. But if I had to make a bet on any team right now, it would be Texas Tech. But I feel like any team could win it, even Baylor. Baylor's got a great quarterback. I mean, we saw, obviously it was a little bit of a sloppy game, the Ireland game between Iowa State and Kansas State, but we saw both those teams have flashes of greatness. Iowa State came out on top, but I mean, K-State is still definitely going to be a contender for this conference if Avery Johnson can continue to look good and take another step for the Wildcats. So, I mean, TCU is there too. You got BYU, was good last season. Arizona State is back. And the big thing here is that a lot of these quarterbacks are returning. Sam Leavitt at Arizona State, Sawyer Robertson, Baylor. I mentioned Avery Johnson, Rocco Becht at Iowa State. So, again, this conference could be anyone, but if I had to put money on it, I would have to say Texas Tech just because that recruiting class is insane. So, there's a lot of pressure on Joey McGuire to get this team right because they've put their money into the team for sure. Going to the ACC now, which is like the ACC is probably the most top-heavy conference, I would say. It seems like there's really only a few teams that can win this every year, and I mean, I'm just going to go with Clemson. Dabo's very consistent, and they had a great end of season last year in the ACC championship game, beating SMU, and they returned their quarterback, Cade Klubnik. So not really much to say here on the ACC. I think there's some definitely good teams to look out for. Boston College is fun with Bill O'Brien. They had a great start last season, so I think they're fun. SMU is fun. Even though they fizzled out in the college football playoff, they still had a great season. So yeah, I would say that Clemson is probably a pretty good pick, and Florida State will be back too. You got to look at them. Definitely a down season last year, but they'll be back. They'll be back. They're always pretty good. And then Big Ten is probably one of the most question marks just because of what happened last season. Ohio State wins the national championship. Obviously, they have a new quarterback. But I'm looking at Penn State right now, and I'm saying it's now or never. It's now or never for Penn State. You have Drew Allar still. You still have the expectations. You have a great roster. James Franklin, now is the time to show that you can win this conference. Oregon lost their quarterback. Michigan's been kind of in a weird state with all their violations and things like that. So now is the time for Penn State to actually do something, and I hope they do for the sake of their fans. So those are my 4 picks. I got Penn State, Texas Tech, Clemson, and Texas winning the Power 4. But after this weekend, next Thursday is when NFL starts. And so we're going to talk about the NFL after this short break, but definitely very excited for the college football landscape. Transitioning from college to the NFL now, the NFL is so great because every team and every fan base can have something to root for, regardless of if they're good or bad. If you're a Saints fan, a Browns fan, a Jets fan, teams that are probably not going to be great this season, you always have something to root for. Because, yeah, you can be excited about a draft pick. You can be excited about your new young quarterback like the Saints. You can be excited about Tyler Shuck. You can be excited about Shedeur Sanders. There's always something to root for. And then, of course, these playoff hopeful teams. And it changes year over year. You know, there's always teams that go from worst to first. We see it every single season. But with that being said, these divisions are pretty stacked. And I'm going to start out with probably the most competitive division and who I think is going to win that one. And that's the NFC North. And it's really hard for me to not look at the Green Bay Packers and think they're going to win this. They have Matt LaFleur, who's been there year in and year out. They're going to have a healthy season of Jordan Love. They drafted 2 receivers in the first 3 rounds, Matthew Golden and Savion Williams from TCU. So I think that they have the most continuity in this division, and Matt LaFleur has proven he can win in the regular season. It's just about, can Jordan Love stay healthy and can he limit the mistakes? We saw Josh Allen last season take a huge step in the turnover department. Can Jordan Love do that? And can he stay healthy? If those 2 things happen, I think the Packers win this division pretty easily. I think the Lions are great still, but they lost Ben Johnson. So how's that going to work? That's a big thing with their offense. We've seen Jared Goff be a part of teams that win 1-2 games. We've seen him be a part of teams that lose 2 games, like last season. So it's very much dependent on the system with Jared Goff and who's around him, which the Lions still have great weapons, don't get me wrong. But I do think they're going to take a bit of a step back this season. And then the Vikings and the Bears are too much of a wild card. Honestly, they can both be great. Ben Johnson going over to help Caleb Williams. Can he take that jump in year 2 and be that number 1 overall pick that everyone thinks he can be? And then how's J.J. McCarthy going to be? He didn't play at all last year. Sam Darnold held down the fort in Minnesota. And Justin Jefferson, I feel like he could really start complaining if J.J. McCarthy is not getting him the ball because Jettas needs to eat. So the NFC North, there's a lot of things that could happen, but I think the safe pick is the Packers because they have the most continuity. Staying in the NFC, let's go to the West. I think this is a 2-man race, 49ers and Rams. But I'm going to go with the Niners because they have the easiest schedule this season. They only play 4 teams that made the playoffs last year. And yes, they're dealing with some injuries. Yes, they traded Deebo Samuel, who had definitely a down year last year. Brandon Ayuk's coming back at week 6. Hopefully, a healthy season of Christian McCaffrey will do them well. But the big one for me is Robert Saleh returning to coordinate the defense. That is going to be a huge step up. A lot of these guys rallied around him when he was in San Francisco the first time. And with some new additions on defense, Renardo Green is going to step into a starting role at corner opposite of Diamador Lenore. D. Winters is going to be there instead of Dre Greenlaw, which might hurt. And then the draft, too. Alfred Collins from Texas in the second round, defensive tackle. They rebuilt this defensive line around Nick Bosa, which was kind of lackluster last season. So I think the 49ers, they always seem to have like a down year and then a bounce back year where they do really well. So I think this is definitely going to be their bounce back year. And don't count out the Rams because the Rams are great. I'm just worried about Matthew Stafford's back. I feel like it's more of a problem because of his age than the Rams want to give it the attention. And that scares me, especially with a kind of a shaky backup situation with Jimmy G and Stetson Bennett. But let's head to the NFC South. This one's pretty easy. I got to just say the Buccaneers until one of these other teams can prove otherwise that they can compete in this division. The Panthers had a great end of the season last year. The Saints look to be a mess, but Kellen Moore has done well wherever he's gone. It's just the quarterback situation, right? Like the Saints still have a lot of their guys. Like they have Olave, they have Kamara. They have their guys on defense still. Cam Jordan, even though he's older, they have an aging defense, but they still have guys there. It's just about can they get quarterback play from Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck. And the Panthers, again, they're young. They had a great end of the season last year, but until they can really prove it from week 1, it's hard not to just choose the Buccaneers here. And I know they have a new offensive coordinator, but they've done well at promoting within. Their new OC is Josh Grizzard. He was the pass game coordinator. Kind of the same arc that Liam Cohen took, who's now with the Jaguars. So it's really hard to just pick against Tampa Bay, especially with more weapons than they had last season. They added Emeka Egbuka, and Bucky Irving's a great running back. So they have guys everywhere on offense to support Baker Mayfield, and it's hard to not pick the Buccaneers in this division. And I mean, Atlanta could be fine, but again, the quarterback situation's a question mark. We really didn't see much of Michael Penix last year. So I feel like the NFC South might be the easiest of all the divisions to pick just because it just seems like the Buccaneers have been running it for the last few years, and I don't know if that's going to change. But the NFC East, they always have this trope of like, oh, it's going to be a different team that wins every season. And Washington's great. Don't get me wrong. Washington's great, but I think Philadelphia is going to win this division again. Their defense just leaves much to be desired in Washington. It's kind of like the Saints with the aging defense. They got Bobby Wagner and Von Miller. And yes, the Eagles won the Super Bowl, so it's hard not to pick them. But if they returned a lot of the same guys on offense. So it's hard to just not pick the Eagles there. The Giants are like one of the most fun teams but they're not gonna, they're not gonna win the division. Jackson Dart looked good in preseason. That's great. They have Jameis Winston, who's just like the ultimate clubhouse guy, and that's the thing. The Giants are like the fun team of the year, and that's great for them. But they're not going to win the division, and neither is Dallas. Brian Schottenheimer, we'll see what happens. I think Dallas will be fine, like they always are. They're kind of like it's like the Steelers and Cowboys are kind of the same to me. Like they're gonna all be fine. They're gonna always be fine. But I don't think this is one of those years where Dallas is really gonna like push to win the division. I think this is the Eagles' division to lose, and Washington could make a splash. But again, their defense scares me. But let's go over to the AFC now. And again, with the AFC, we'll start with the AFC North. I think the Ravens might have the most complete team in the NFL. It seems like they only added guys. Granted, they were older guys like DeAndre Hopkins, but it just seems like this is another one of those sort of how I said to Penn State, it's like now or never for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson has been criticized about his play in the postseason, and rightfully so. I mean, when you have such good regular seasons, and honestly, Lamar should have won MVP last year instead of Josh Allen. He had better stats across the board. I just think there was some voter fatigue there. But the Ravens, they need to prove it in the postseason. Yes, they lost Justin Tucker, but he was shaky last season too. So we'll see how their new kicker does. But the Ravens feel like the most complete team in the NFL. And the Steelers, I know the joke with the Steelers is like, oh, they're going to go 10-7, they're going to go 9-8. But seriously, that's what it looks like again this season. How's Aaron Rodgers going to look? I think he'll probably be better than Russell Wilson. But I just, the Steelers are just so mid. They're, again, like the Cowboys, it's where, are we really going to see them take a jump this year? And then the other two teams, like the Bengals, I mean, you've seen all the clips of the offensive line. It's a mess. They don't want to pay their players. They just got the deal done with Trey Hendrickson. And so the Bengals, it's just like, yeah, they're going to be a powerhouse on offense like they always are. Jamar, T. Higgins, they can just run any single game that they want to. But it's just about that offensive line, keeping Burrow healthy. And that defense was abysmal last year. Can they make any kind of improvement? So we'll see. And then the Browns are, the Browns. Joe Flacco's cool or whatever, but they're just, like, are they really going to be competing? No. So let's move on to the Chiefs, and I don't like this. I don't like the Chiefs. I'm a 49ers fan. Again, I'm going to put my biases out there. They beat us twice in the Super Bowl. But you can't not pick the Chiefs. They've ran this division for so long. Again, it's similar to Tampa, but on an even bigger extent. And this is what pains me to do this, because I think the Chargers and Broncos can make great jumps. If you look at the Broncos and like all the moves that they've made, Sean Payton is trying to build up like the prime Saints. I mean, Evan Ingram is like, he's trying to get his Jimmy Graham. Bo Nix kind of plays like a fast Drew Brees. I know it was his rookie year, but hopefully he can take a step there. But it just feels like Sean Payton is trying to build up the prime Saints in Denver, which is really cool to see. And then the Chargers, year 2 under Jim Harbaugh. They're going to take a step. I mean, Lab McConkey in year 2, they got a new running back with Marion Hampton. They're fun. The Chargers are fun, and they have a chance to be better. And I think both of those teams have a chance to win this division. And this may be unpopular. I was talking about worst to first earlier. I think the Raiders could be like that team that goes from really bad to like a wild card spot. Geno Smith is a good quarterback. I don't know why he isn't rated higher. I mean, he loves to spread the ball. The Raiders have weapons. They drafted Genty. Yes, their defense is not great, but they still have Max Crosby. The Raiders could be that type of team that could, I don't know, surprise a lot of people and make a wild card. Pete Carroll has always been a great stability coach. I can't see a Pete Carroll-led team having like a losing record or something like that. So I think the Raiders are finally going to get their act together a little bit. They may not make the playoffs, but they're going to be competent, and they're going to give some teams some trouble. So I actually am higher on the Raiders than a lot of people, I think, are around the NFL. But again, it's the Chiefs. They're a juggernaut. You can't not pick them until they give you a reason not to. The Rashee Rice situation's a little bit shaky. We'll see how much he gets suspended for. But again, yeah, Chiefs all the way there. AFC South, it's a two-team race, Houston and Jacksonville. Houston, I just think, has more holes. Their offensive line is really, really not good. It's a big problem. Joe Mixon is hurt. He's gonna go on IR. He wasn't activated, so he'll be out for at least the first 4 weeks. They got Nick Chubb, which is fine, but again, another injury-plagued running back who we'll see how he does. But Jacksonville's exciting. Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. I mean, come on, that's fun, and we'll see if ETN can bounce back. But they have Tank Bigsby as well. And Liam Cohen really proved last season on Tampa that he can spread the ball out and get his receivers crazy involved. So I'm excited to see Jacksonville's offense this season. And hopefully Trevor Lawrence can be healthy. We saw him take that nasty hit last season to where Mac Jones was playing. But the Jaguars should be fun this season. And then hopefully their defense can continue to develop. But they look fun. I think the Titans are not going to be really in this. They have an aging wide receiver core. They had the number one pick for a reason. Let's be honest. And Cam Ward could be great, whatever, but they're not going to compete for this division. And then the Colts, I think, have a chance to maybe be the first overall pick this coming year. They got Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. I mean, if you're thinking fantasy wise, I wouldn't touch the Colts with a 10-foot pole. They have some guys, but and the sad thing is that I like Shane Steichen as a coach. I think he's a great coach. He's a great play caller. They just haven't been able to get the quarterback right, which is quite disheartening for Colts fans. But let's go over to the AFC East, and this one's pretty easy. It's the Bills as well. The Patriots are kind of in that rebuild mode, which is how they've been for a while. They got Drake May. Now they got their coach, Mike Vrabel. They'll be interesting, but they're not going to compete for the division with Buffalo yet. And then the Dolphins. Okay, the Dolphins are a mess. They're a mess. Tua, he can be fine, but with Tyreek and Waddle, the offense should just be better than it is. So we'll see if Mike McDaniel can turn it around. But the Dolphins have just been, to be frank, like a disappointment for all the guys that they have on both sides of the ball, really. So we'll see if they can turn things around. Hopefully Tua can stay healthy, because that was a mess last season. So yeah, Dolphins, I don't really know what else to say there. But the Bills should have this pretty single-handedly locked up there. So those are the way too early preseason division winners. But now let's get into some games that we're going to be playing here at KCEN that we're going to update throughout the season. We got two of them. We got our NFL Survivor, which if you haven't played Survivor, it's you pick one team that you think is going to win every single week, but you can't pick that team again for the rest of the season. So, for example, if you think the Chiefs are going to win week 1 and they win, great, you move on to week 2. But you can't pick the Chiefs again for the rest of the season. So you kind of have to balance it out with like, oh, okay, well, if I pick the Chiefs now, then I can't use them later on in the season. So it's just a hard decision to make, because you also don't want to pick wrong, because if you pick wrong, you're out for the season. So we'll see who here at the station has the most ball knowledge. We got a lot of people joined in on that, so it should be a fun time. And then again, with our fantasy league, we have 16 people here at the station, on-air talent that you guys know are going to be in on this, and we'll see again who has the best fantasy team, and we'll update you week to week on that one as well. And for fantasy, I kind of want to just end it here on some late round sleepers. If you're in a deep league like I am, I'm in a league with 14 teams, and again, here at the station, we have a 16-team league, which is just, it's going to get thin. So I'm going to give you guys some 5 late round sleepers to keep an eye on. Number 1 is Luther Burden. And again, these aren't in any particular order. Luther Burden on the Bears. And the main reason I like this, because not only was he great at Missouri, but I think he's going to play that kind of Amon-Ra St. Brown role in the Bears offense, because Ben Johnson is there now. And in the preseason, he showed that he can block too, which is going to be huge for the run game in Chicago. And Keenan Allen is gone now. He's back to the Chargers. So Luther Burden is in line to be the starting slot receiver there. in Chicago, and I think that he can really do some numbers in this Ben Johnson offense, as we've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown do for years on the Lions when he was the offensive coordinator there. So I would definitely take a late round flyer on Luther Burden if you can. Now I'm going to give you a quarterback here that's a late round. If you don't want to draft a quarterback early, I get it. Because there's so many good quarterbacks that can put up points for you. And I know I said I was high on the Raiders, but Geno Smith is definitely going to be my late round sleeper at quarterback. They passed the ball so much when he was in Seattle with Pete Carroll, and that was his best season of his career. And now they signed Amari Cooper, and they have Jacoby Myers. The contract situation is gonna be interesting to see how that works out there because he's asking for a new deal. And of course they have Brock Bowers. And now with Ashton Genty too, they're going to be able to work off play action, and they're going to be able to run the ball more, which is just going to help the offense overall. And I think Geno Smith is going to benefit from that heavily in Vegas. Okay, and staying with the Raiders, also, I'm going to go with Jack Besh as a receiver, especially if the Jacoby Myers situation does not work out there in Vegas. Jack Besh is going to be in line really as the wide receiver too there with Amari Cooper, and he had a great season at TCU last season. Just a great story too. If you haven't heard Jack Besh's story, I would encourage you to go look it up. Just playing for his brother last season and carrying that into the NFL. Jack Besh is definitely on my radar as a late round guy that could be really good and benefit from the pass heavy offense that the Raiders are probably going to be running with Geno Smith. And then I'll give you another receiver here. I know I got 3 receivers on here, but you can really find these gems late if you're in a deep league. And I'm going to go with Andre Yoshavash. He's 1% rostered in ESPN leagues right now, and he's the wide receiver 3 on the Bengals. So barring any injuries, like obviously we don't want to see Jamar Chase hurt. We don't want to see T. Higgins hurt. But we know how explosive that Bengals offense is. And Yoshavash was a rookie last season from Princeton, a late round guy. And he's only going to get better this season. And he had 6 touchdowns in his rookie year last season. And he ran a ton of routes. So he's in this offense. He's in the first team offense. So getting that Bengals wide receiver 3 is just never a bad move, especially we've seen T. Higgins deal with injuries. And then Yoshavash becomes that wide receiver 2. So if you're in one of these deep leagues, Andre Yoshavash is definitely going to be a late round guy that you want to keep an eye on that could really come into a bigger role this season if his name is called upon. And then I'll end it with the tight end here, Zach Ertz. Yes, he's 34 years old, but he's Jaden Daniels' security blanket. These young quarterbacks, they love having that reliable tight end that they can just dump the ball to. And Zach Ertz was that last season. And really at a point in his career where he was kind of counted out, he found a home in Washington and made the most of it. And Zach Ertz is still balling at age 34. And Terry McLaurin did just get his contract resolved, so obviously he's the number 1 target there. But after seeing Debo last season in San Francisco, are we really going to trust him to be that consistent? It seems like Zach Ertz might be the 2nd or 3rd option here in this offense for Washington. So if you need a tight end late, definitely look into Zach Ertz. I'm very high on him this season, and I think he's going to be just that same model consistency there that he's always been throughout his career. But that's all I got for episode 1 of KCEN Kickoff. I know it was just me today. Thank you for joining me, obviously. But hopefully in the coming weeks, we will have more people on here. We'll have Sydney, we'll have Madison, and there's just a lot of people in the newsroom that know sports because we talk about sports in the newsroom a lot here. So we're definitely going to have some different fan bases on here. I know we have a Raiders fan, we have a Ravens fan, we have a Lions fan, we have representation from a lot of different fan bases here at KCEN. So just very excited to get more people on the show and talk to them about what they think. And we'll definitely start that next week. I'm sure we'll have a guest on here. But this has been episode 1. This is kind of what we're gonna be every week here on Wednesday, just talking sports, really casual. We're going to talk football because it's back. Baseball's heating up. I mentioned like Winter Olympics is coming too. It's going to be big for our station. And just basketball season starting too, and college basketball. And then once we turn the year, then we're getting into March Madness and stuff. it's going to be a great time to start this show. And again, the engineers did a great job with the streaming center. So just very grateful for them and what they were able to give us here. And we're just excited to talk sports and connect more with Central Texas here. But that's going to do it for episode 1. I've been your host, Ethan Love, and thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week after college football has started, and we'll look into week 1 of the NFL. Bye, guys.